Subscribe.
We'll highlight all that. Don't you worry.
Just
But of
saying,
course,
you gotta remind people.
Subscribe right now.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Of course.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
It's funny because like you look at like Augusta National is obviously it's so different from everywhere else. Obviously, like the bunkers are made of quartz, and the course looks mysterious. We should have recorded this like before we even started this, but like the idea that Augusta is like shrouded in this mystery and that you can meander the golf course, so like you've never actually been there, so you like can't even really like you know all the holes, but you don't know like where they are in relation to the clubhouse and like on the golf course. You just know what they are 1 through 18. There's something so fascinating about it. Although I will say this, while the bunkers are cool, it's really just because it isn't sand. The coolest bunkers, though, I don't know if you saw on the European tour, I think it was, they played in India this past week, and they're pop bunkers like you see in the British Isles, but instead of it just being like tiered, it's like actually like it's manicured and like trimmed over so it looks like miniature hills in the green. Like it looks so different. I want to try and find a photo of this. It was like the Hero Indian Open.
The thing that makes Augusta's bunkers so incredible, not just the fact that it's like a quartz and calcium mix, but they're so big. Those bunkers are tremendous.
Yeah, they are.
Like they're massive. I think that's what makes them really cool.
So actually, hold on. So here's a photo from the Hero India Open from a couple weeks ago or last week. Like the bunkers don't look like typical pop bunkers, but they're really fucking cool.
So
those are sick.
So that you do see that a little bit in like at some courses in the Open Championship. They're just not that manicured.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, because like a lot of the pot bunkers, we're getting off topic, but like, so, like it's basically just like a bowl that they just stuck in the ground, and they just made the outline of it, but the edges are sharp down basically. So instead of being at like a traditional angle this way that you'd see in a bunker or this way, it's just straight up and down, but it's in a circular shape. And so they are somewhat like you can see like the grooves and like I'm assuming it's like dirt and like weeds or whatever, or like roots, but it's not nearly as manicured. I think part of it is also because like, if you hit an iron out of there and you catch a little thin, you're just gonna nail the face, and it's just you see it just like the sand, the dirt, like goes up.
It's very cool. But yeah, no, I think, and of course next week's Augusta, but something about like the build up to it, and that we're only 10 days away from it. It's kind of just like it gives you that like that ooh and ah and allure of like, oh my god, it's coming. Like I have a friend who's going to be volunteering as a marshal at the event.
Shut up.
Yeah, he went to USC. He did it. He was like a junior marshal / like security, like checking tickets and everything a couple of years ago, and he won the lottery back to volunteer again. So every year you do marshaling, you get a higher and higher rank because you're used to doing it. So like obviously like the members always walk around Augusta and they're part of the security detail, quote unquote, but like they're more so helping like with directions and all that stuff. These people are like actually like handling security, walking with the groups. I think his role is going to be walking on the practice rounds with the groups and making sure that like they're all like catered to, which is fucking sick. He will in fact be going into the merch shop, and he will have a $300 balance in the Dumbo to drop money for me. So if you want anything, let me know.
I have actually I might hit you up on that. I do have an Augusta National like long sleeve sweatshirt. Like it's so like my old teammate got it for me when he played there. I'll wear it next week for sure.
I have a polo from a friend of mine, and I have a hat for my friend Grant, who went in 2020. Actually, my friend Grant went with one of his college friends, and his dad is a member at not Grant, his friend's dad is a member at Augusta. So he was staying with him, and they're staying like on site in one of like the houses they have there.
Mhm.
And his friend turns to me and goes, "Hey, like we're hosting somebody for the weekend. We need to go pick him up at the airport." So they get into a car. They have they have a driver bringing them to the airport. The two of them go and pick the guy up. He goes, "So who's this guy?" And he goes, "Oh, you'll find out." A knock on the door, and a British voice. And my friend turns. It's Tom Holland. And all my friend goes, "Spider-Man?"
You know, that was my
I get that a lot.
That was my nickname when I was at Xavier, Spider-Man.
Could you do the British accent though?
No, because I had several people go up to me, like literally my first day of my first day ever at Xavier. Two of the kids in this English class were like, "Has anybody ever told you look like Tom Holland?" And the other kid was like, "Bro, like yeah, he does." And then like that summer leading up to that, I played with a kid in a tournament, and he was like, "Dude, you look like that Spider-Man guy." And then I remember even after I left Xavier, I was getting Chick-fil-A, and this girl at like when she gave me my food, she was like, "Has anybody ever told you look just like Tom Holland?" I was like, "Yeah, I get that a lot, actually."
Then I think we're gonna change your punishment for beer money.
What?
We're
This
gonna
is
make
not
you
fair. Come on, I'm
no,
already.
no. Spider-Man suit, and you're gonna play a round of golf in the suit. not heat of the summer, but like
I was gonna say
October, late September. We'll get you out on Bethpage. You'll have the full thing, and then they'll like take the mask off, and everyone's like Tom Holland. That'll be your punishment. It's better.
Well, that just ruined the whole thing because you just told everyone's gonna happen.
Well, it's better than you wearing women's clothes.
I feel like that might be better for content, though. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it would be. Yes, it would be. But also, like, you ever see the videos of Spider Cuz on like Side Talk?
Oh yeah.
We'll just give you a bottle of Henny into Tim's.
Oh my God. All right, that's enough. Let's get this show on the
Let them room for. Hello and welcome into the Get in the Hole podcast. Stephen McAvoy, Ben Pirro back once again as the calendar flips over into April. It's a very exciting time for everybody as we inch ever so closer to major season. With the Texas Houston Open wrapping up, we now turn our attention to TPC San Antonio and the Valero Texas Open. Once again, Stephen McAvoy, Ben Pirro here for the Get in the Hole podcast. Brought to you today and every day by our incredible merch partners over at PHI Apparel Company. They provide these unique, incredible designs, high-quality clothing from T-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. And, of course, you can always get some fun official Get in the Hole merch from us. I know Ben's got his hoodie, probably one of the softest things that both of us own. With their original designs, there's no doubt that you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's any order, code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co and get exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch. And, of course, all of our amazing shows here at Underground Sports Philadelphia. Once again, code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off your order at phiapparel.co. We are also sponsored by our friends over at Tomahawk Shades, the top small batch eyewear brand in the industry, founded on Long Island, rep by some of the biggest personalities in sports, including Chris Hogan, Kyle Harrison, John Jay, and, of course, golf's very own Paige Sporanic. Tomahawk Shades is guaranteed to keep you looking fresh from the first hole to the 18th green and beyond. Head to TomahawkShades.com or download the Tomahawk Shades app on the App Store or Google Play Store. Browse the selection of sunglasses, blue light plus glasses, and, of course, the prescription lenses that your boy's rocking right now. And be sure to use code USP for 25% off your next order. I actually just bought some Tomahawk Shades for my groomsmen They have the groomsman pack. You get a full-on set of, I think, like 6 to 8 or even upwards of 10. Took $30 a pair. Absolute steal. Applied the code. Perfect play for me. Again, TomahawkShades.com. Download the Tomahawk Shades app on the App Store, Google Play Store, and get shopping today. Use code USP for 25% off. So, Ben, the calendar is getting more intense as we go on, and I feel like I'm beating the dead horse saying this, but we're now at the heart of the season. We're at a little bit over the quarter mark of the year. The quarter mark is really right around the players. But the calendar really hits its apex once you get to April, because now it's finally major season. We're 10 days until the Masters begins. Actually, like literally tees off in 10 days, which is crazy to think about. Augusta's already prepped. Rory was there for a scouting day. Wyndham was there. Tiger's been there. Justin Thomas has been there. Everyone's been on scouting trips so far. There is a loaded field, though, this week prior at the Valero Texas Open. But we begin all of our news this week with someone who's going to make his Augusta debut. Stephan Jäger locks in his first trip to Augusta, taking home the Houston Open, upsetting what was the greatest betting line in all of sports: Scottie Scheffler to win versus the field. I don't know. I've never seen an event ever where that was literally a betting option. And the fact that you can get better odds to bet Scheffler versus the field as opposed to just his outright is a ludicrous proposition to me. But Ben, let's break it down. Stephan Jäger finally locks in his bet into Augusta. We saw this last year. So the Houston Open used to be a fall event. We saw it last year, though. The Valero, JJ Spawn got his bid into Augusta, getting his first career victory, locking him in. We're gonna see if someone else can claim their first trip this week. But taking down Scottie Scheffler was quite the achievement.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he's had a pretty solid year up to this point. A little bit of an unknown player going into 2024. Up till this point, looking at his cuts made versus events played, he's only made 84 out of 135 cuts, which I know 84 sounds like a lot, but I'm not what is that? That's 51 missed cuts, right? Does my math serve me right? Is that 51?
What's the number we're at?
What's 135 minus 84? That's 51, correct?
There you go. Math whiz Ben over here.
Okay, no, so he's missed roughly a third of his cuts. So consistency has eluded him in his career at times. I mean, look, you play 135 events on the PGA Tour. I think you must be doing something right?
He has a 60.7% conversion on the cut line. A little extra math for you.
Right around, like, man, look, right around a third. Okay.
That's pretty good. I mean, hey, you can't complain.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, this year, look, I mean, in 9 events played, he's made 7 cuts, 3 of which have been top 10s. He has 4 top 25s. Currently now he's 10th in FedEx Cup points. He's made $2.7 million. So he's doing a fine job for sure. And look, like the 2 cuts that he missed were at arguably 2 of the harder courses you can play on the PGA Tour: the Cognizant and the Players. Now, look, I understand the Players this year was a lot softer and all that stuff, but look, I mean, he finished tied for 3rd at the Farmers, and that was really the first time we actually spoke about it, I believe. He was tied for 3rd in Mexico, and I know people are gonna, stick their nose out because it's like, oh, it's the Mexico Open, nobody plays. Well, it's still a tied for 3rd finish. And so when you have a stretch of 3 events and 2 of them are tied for 3rd finishes, you're probably going to break through at some point. That historically, that's been kind of the trend. It's rare for someone, like I remember when Wesley Bryan won his first PGA Tour event. He got his tour card, and then because he had won 3 Korn Ferry events, so he got elevated to the PGA Tour mid-year. Then the next year came around where he had he could pick his schedule essentially, with the exception of the majors, and he had like a stretch of like tied for fourth, a tied for seventh, tied for eighth. And it was like, okay, this guy's going to break through. And he did. And this kind of reminds me a little bit of what Wesley did back in 2017, I believe it was. So well, hats off to Stephan Jäger. A great job, a job well done. I believe he's 34 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So another first-time winner as well. So, and he beat a star. He really did. He beat a star. And, you know, I think maybe some people could say that Scottie might have beaten himself. But at the end of the day, the guy was trying to go back to back to back, you know, in 3 straight events that he's played. So it's obviously very hard to do in the game, in a game like golf. But hats off to this guy, man. He played great.
The really cool story though with Stephan Jäger that I think is something that's been kind of slept on. You're right. We haven't talked about him at all since the Farmers was the first time that his name kind of got into the spotlight. And again, at 34 years old, he's been around. He's been playing professional golf since I was a freshman in high school, to kind of give perspective into how long it's been, 2012, since he went pro. He has, what I believe it's like 7 career top 10 finishes. He has 3 in the last 2 months. So right there, you're seeing the instant climb. His prior 3 top 3s dated back to July of 2022. He had 2 top 10s at the Rocket Mortgage, both I think finished top 10, and then he had another top finish, I think, in like the Cadence Bank Open, like one of the alternate field events. So hasn't really has finally gotten over the hump and has gotten to a level that he's been consistently on leaderboards through the weekend multiple times, and not at any slouch courses. Again, this has been a year that we've seen a lot of the random players kind of come out and succeed. Matthew Pavon, of course, being the guy who beat Jäger at the Farmers Insurance Open. But like now you're seeing these newer guys get into the limelight and be able to finally hit their stride at the right time. So total credit to Stephan Jäger. You could say, of course, that Scottie did beat himself, that 10-footer to force the playoff. Don't know what it was. I mean, we talked about it in the pre-tape. Like maybe just didn't like the line in the first place. Didn't have a lot of confidence going into the shot. It could have been so many things on his mind going into it. But even aside from Scottie Scheffler, the field that he had to put up with, and I love the pun here, Finau more and more. So many good players were chasing his tail throughout this tournament, and Jäger didn't get the upper hand until halfway through the back 9 on Sunday.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on one thing before we switch.
Yeah.
In the 2020-2021 season, Stephan Jäger only played 5 events. Okay, so he was not a full-time member. He got his tour card back, and then 2021-2022 season, he made 15 cuts and missed 16 cuts, but he finished 94th in the FedEx Cup because he had 6 top 25 finishes. So he kept his card. The following year, 2022-2023, because he was a full member, he ended up finishing 56th in the FedEx Cup. And now currently he's 10th with a win under his belt. So you see the maturation of a player, right? And I'm sure, I'm sure he's learned a lot, not just about his physical game, but also his mental game. But that's pretty cool to see how he's kind of, he had status on the PGA Tour. I mean, he's been having starts in the PGA Tour, I believe, since 2013. This guy isn't like someone that just came out of nowhere. He has a ton of experience. And then to see the last 3 years where he's just kind of like slowly kind of figured it out, that's a testament to grit and determination. And because honestly, like, I think it would be really easy for someone after like 2020, 2021, when you play 5 events and you don't even make $100,000, you know, on the PGA Tour. I think at 30, 31 years old, who knows, maybe he was like, oh geez, like, I don't know if this is for me, man. You know, I don't know. And just to see how he's matured, how his game has matured over time is it's pretty great to see.
You also bring up actually a great point, and I meant to say this earlier. This is also a player who, going into the FedEx Fall, did not have status on the PGA Tour. He had a conditional status and had to work his way up, and he finished basically up the ass at this point, 61st in the FedEx Fall, which would have qualified him had he got to 60th. He lost by 21 points behind Alex Smalley. would have qualified for the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, would have qualified for the Genesis, came up just short. In 4 events in the fall, between the 40-net, Sanderson Farm, Worldwide Tech, and the RSM, finished 45th, 25th, 45th, 28th. To fight his way all the way up, he started out at 91st in the FedEx Fall standings and was able to work his way up 30 slots. Now, for reference, he would have still kept his PGA Tour card because the top 25 earns the card. But the higher up you go, the higher up you get on alternate lists for all of these events, the higher up you get on qualifying in case there is a necessity for extra qualifying at AT&T or at the Genesis. So when it comes to that, you're still fighting for a lot more than just simply keeping your tour card. And it showed, considering he played at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, because he became an alternate. He was the first alternate for the event. So right there goes to show you that he did have to fight for this. And you're right, could have very well hung it up at age 30, 31 years old, at the middle of COVID. Said, you know what, maybe it isn't for me. Comes out, gets his first victory, and is now booking his ticket to Augusta National in 2 weeks. With that being said, though, again, the field that he took out, Tony Finau soared up the leaderboard on both Friday to make the cut and on Sunday to come so close to forcing a playoff. Also missed a big-time putt on 17 and 18. Could have went birdie, ended up going par, and was unable to get close. Taylor Moore, who actually you picked this week for a top 10 placement, did a phenomenal job trying to get his second career win following a last year victory at the Valspar. Also came up just short. The field was actually loaded for it's not an alternate field event, but it also isn't the top flight event that everyone looks forward to. There's a 6-way tie for second position on this leaderboard, including Thomas Detry as well. Aaron Rai came right up short at 10 under. This is a loaded field, which also is cool because, and we can talk more about this from a course standpoint. It's one of the few courses on the PGA Tour that's played every year that's actually a muni. So it's cool to get a different aspect than your traditional private country club exclusivity, beautifully manicured courses. This is a course that anybody can go play at any given time. It's cool to have one of those curveballs thrown into the tour calendar.
No, I agree. I mean, I think
it's a hard course too. To win a 12 under is crazy. Sorry.
No. Like the thing with the thing that I don't have much of a history of playing in the state of Texas. I played one time. That was that lovely event called First Stage of Q School.
Oh God, yeah, at Walden.
That place was a dump. I cannot believe they had us there. I honestly, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. But one thing I've heard is. And one thing I've observed is that wind is definitely a factor when you play in the state of Texas, for sure, because it's so open, whether it's Houston or San Antonio. I mean, Houston's kind of right on the Gulf, so I'm sure you get that ocean breeze, but San Antonio, it's very much like desert golf, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're going to see it this week at TPC San Antonio. That place,
it's hot.
Well, yes, it's hot, but it's also hard as a rock. You know, we have, I think it's the highest score ever recorded on the PGA Tour on one hole. Kevin Na, I think he made a 14. It's kind of funny. I hate to say it, kind of funny. And he took it like a champ, which I just love. But he took it right on the chin, he handled it like a pro. But one thing, the wind is definitely, it's very much a factor for sure when it comes to scoring when you play in the state of Texas. And I think anytime you reach double digits out on either one of these courses this past week or this coming week, you reach double digits after 4 rounds, kind of similar to what you see at Innisbrook, the Copperhead course for the Valspar. You're going to be in good shape come the back nine on Sunday.
Believe it or not, actually, I was totally curious on this. Kevin Na actually doesn't have the worst score in PGA Tour history. Believe it or not.
Wait a minute. Is it John Daly?
John Daly is
On number 16 at the Copperhead course.
No, actually.
What?
John Daly shot an 18 at Bay Hill in 98 on the 6th hole.
Oh, the par 5 with
on the par 5.
What did Kevin Na make? Was it a 14? Was that at least
Kevin Na shot a 16 at San Antonio. That was the 9th hole.
Oh my god.
You were close. What's the caption here on USA Today? Tee shot landed in the woods. From there, it was one volley after another, a whiff, and even a left-handed attempt.
Yeah.
He sunk his one and only putt.
Yes.
But actually, the worst score ever on a hole is actually belongs to Tommy Armour in the 1927 Shawnee Open. The 17th hole, he shot a 23.
Oh gosh.
He hit 10 balls out of bounds on the par 5 17th.
At some point, you just got to hit a pitching wedge off the tee, man. Like,
but the worst score in like quote unquote modern golf, which we'll say like as modern technology got bigger and better, was John Daly on the 6th, a score of 18, and then next up behind him was Kevin Na. So very much close. I'm trying to see if there's any other really bad holes in recent history. I know someone shot a 14 at Augusta on the 16th in the mid 2000s.
Really?
It's one of the old heads. It was one of the first Masters tournaments I ever watched. I was like 6 or 7. I want to say it wasn't like Fuzzy Zeller, Billy Casper maybe. Like I forget who it was, but he shot like a 16 on the par 3, and even Tiger in that might have been his comeback year in 2021 shot like a 12. He had a really bad hole.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
12. No. I'm positive he did. Oh God.
No, he didn't. We're going down the rabbit hole right now.
I know we are, but I'm also the 12th hole in 2020 in the final round, he shot a 10.
Oh, I mean, dude, I've made a 10 before. I mean, I've made several 10s before. It happens.
It happens. I totally forget.
But 16, like, oh my god.
So anyhow, we're getting off on the tangent here, but yeah. So San Antonio, I heard a tweet the other day about how the Texas events on the PGA Tour are the worst events because all the courses are kind of like drab and dull. I disagree with TPC San Antonio. They think they're a good course.
Oh yeah.
The only downside to it is that Greg Norman built it. But otherwise, like, I don't think Texas is particularly a bad area for golf. I think Colonial is a historic and fun golf course. I think Craig Ranch, where they had the Byron Nelson, it's a very easy golf course. It's also the worst like drainage swamp on the planet. Like it rains there and it's fucking disgusting. It's just mud everywhere. But you're right. It's all about open area, open land. Not necessarily like link style, but like kind of sort of because there's a lot of trees depending on where you go. But the Valero is going to be fun. It's going to be hard as a rock. But again, like to win at a Muni at 12 under is a pretty impressive feat, and it goes to show the challenge of that golf course. I know there are other Munis that we played on year in and year out, Torrey Pines being one of them. That is consistently incredibly challenging, but the fact that a general PGA Tour stop could be that difficult, and also a fall event, goes to show the skill set that's involved. Let's quickly just jump over here before we get to our first break. So, of course, Scottie went win-win and then finished second place here at the Houston Open. Is it more impressive, as impressive, or less impressive than Nelly Korda going 3 straight weeks as a winner on the LPGA?
So Nelly won 3 straight weeks, and Scheffler won 2 straight weeks, and then finished tied for second, like in a log jam, right? 6 players. I gotta go with the three-peat. I got to. I mean, I don't know how else you could say Scottie's. I don't know how you could say Scottie's is more impressive. Anytime you win 3 events in a row, regardless of the level that you play at, That is an incredible accomplishment. I mean, even like, I want you to think about something. Like in college basketball, when you play, like when you enter conference play, you play each team in your conference twice.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get into your postseason, which is your conference tournament, and then hopefully into March Madness, you will end up playing a school in your conference 3 times, several schools 3 times, depending on who you play, how far you advance, etc. It is incredibly difficult in college basketball to beat the same opponent 3 times in a row. It rarely happens unless you're dealing with like UConn. And what?
No, this is really funny because I literally said this on the first episode of Underground Sports, the main pod going over conference tournament play. I go, it's so hard to beat a school 3 times.
No, exactly.
Which is why I always pick the dog in any of those conference tournament bouts. And guess what? They all won.
Well, that's
naturally.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think I remember when I was at Xavier, I think we beat, I think it was Seton Hall. I think we beat them twice in conference play. And then it was either Seton Hall or Butler. It was one of those two. One of those like middle of the pack teams in our conference. And then we ended up losing in the conference tournament to that team. And we were always like, well, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times. And I think, and if it's difficult in basketball where you kind of get like a break, imagine in golf where your winning percentage is actually less because it's golf. Mm-hmm. When the greatest player to ever do it, Tiger Woods, did it at a 25% clip. In comes Nelly Korda, and she wins 3 events in a row. In a sport where the greatest to ever do it did it 25% of the time. I want you to think about that for a second, because we've seen players go back to back, and I don't want to make it seem like that's not impressive, because it is, but we've seen it before. It is incredibly rare when a player goes back to back to back. So hats off to Nelly. That's incredible. That really is. That is rare company. That's rare company.
If you want to jump back also on the idea that it's hard to beat a team 3 times, NC State, who's now going to play in their first Final Four since I believe Jim Valvano, in the ACC tournament, had to beat Duke, Virginia, and the North Carolina. Lost to Duke twice in the regular season. Split against Virginia, and their one win came in overtime, so challenging to play. And they lost both games to North Carolina by more than 15 points, then proceeded to beat them by 9 points. So there you go. Teams, it is hard to beat 3 times. And apparently it's really hard to beat Nelly Korda because she has not finished outside the top 25 in an LPGA event since last August. Crazy good player. She's not. That family also, by the way, I don't know if you know this. The Korda family is so talented. Yeah. Her and her sister, her brother plays tennis. Her mother was an Olympic tennis player, and I believe her father was an Olympic tennis player. Like, that family just breeds incredible athletics. So props to Nelly Korda. Although I will say, to Scottie's credit, his last 2 wins have been incredible. A lot of it's been carried by the putter. I believe he lost a stroke per the final 2 on Friday and Sunday of the Houston Open. Had he even made, again, just like 2 more pars, would have won, and would have actually brought his stat back to even on short game putting. So just kind of give you an idea. We're going to take a short break. On the other side, we're going to jump in on the analysis of the tour to date, see how we're feeling, how our preseason picks have done so far, and what do we expect for the rest of the way through. And of course, we get to break down the Valero Texas Open with one big glaring question heading into Augusta National the following week. Is it important, and can we rely on the stats from Valero to tell us who might very well have a huge week at Augusta? Don't go anywhere. Stephen Ben here from the Underground. We'll be right back.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company, our incredible merch partners. PHI Apparel Co. provides unique designs and high-quality clothing, from T-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. go to phiapparel.co and use code underground at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code underground at phiapparel.co and grab exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch and support your favorite golfers.
You know, I love Easter because it's a great holiday to be able to spend time with family, but also it's horrible for my stomach because then you find me eating Russell Stover's bunnies on the show. Bad day for my stomach. I went from what I have today. I had like homemade halal. Went to Chipotle, and now I'm gonna eat a bunny on air. So
that's great. Yeah, I had Easter brunch with my dad and his wife. That was an experience. That's all I'm gonna say.
What'd you eat?
Oh, the food was delicious. I tried to talk as little as possible, so I just ordered as much food as I could. I ended up getting like a tuna tartare, which came with like fried wontons, and it came with like obviously like the tuna, avocado, not pineapple, mango. I believe it was mango.
Fine.
It was all in like a cylinder shape. Like, and it's, you kind of like break it down and you scoop it. And I got a lobster bisque as well.
Nice.
And then I got eggs Benedict with fries. So good. With Canadian bacon.
Oh, yum.
And then after that, they had homemade donuts. And they were these little donuts that were probably like this big, maybe a little bigger. Bro, there were like 12 or 13 of them. And they came with like hot fudge, like different dipping sauce. Like one was hot fudge, one was like this creamy, I don't remember what kind of like little dipping sauce it was. I ate the whole thing by myself, man. I was so toast. I was just like falling asleep. And then of course my dad looks at me as we're driving back, you know, with the top down. So my hair is everywhere. He's like, "You need a haircut. You need a haircut. You need to get a haircut." So,
if you're gonna eat a bunny, right? Do you eat the head first or the legs first?
I break it. I like break it into little pieces because I feel like it makes it last longer.
I thought you were gonna say it makes it feel less torturous.
No,
like this poor bunny. I just fucking beheaded it. Fuck, fell on the floor. Yeah. Well, now that's shafted. But like, I don't know. I would rather behead the bunny than go legs first and have to like.
I think you're thinking way too far into it.
This was an actual debate at the dinner table last night.
God. I think even when I break it and like into pieces, I definitely go head first. It's easier that way because the head is like part.
Also, I want to give a PSA here that Hershey's eggs are 10 times better than any other form of Hershey candy, like chocolate, solely because it's an egg form. Might sound crazy, but welcome back, everyone, to Get in the Hole. Here we are, Ben and Steve. Want to give a shout out to our friends over at Acorn Hills. Really awkward that we're bringing up Acorn Hills immediately after we talk about the killing of a rabbit. Anyways, Acorn Hills bringing you stylish apparel for on and off the golf course, all while using biodegradable packaging and plantable clothing tags. Acorn Hills is changing clothing through conservation. If you've never heard of them, absolutely go and check them out at acornhillsco.com. Their owner, Nate, awesome guy, college-age kid, plays golf out in Pittsburgh. An awesome guy, an incredible product and a great idea. I actually just ordered a quarter zip. That'll be coming soon, and really excited to get that rocking. Use code GITH15 for 15% off your next order at acornhillsco.com and look your best from the ground up. And here we go. The season to date, again, flipping towards April. Yep. We said a lot. We've claimed a lot of things. Where do we stand now as we hit April? Who's impressed? Who's disappointed? Have our preseason picks, aside from, of course, our major selections, Do they hold any sort of weight? What do you think so far, Ben?
You know, I think, look, I mean, I know like the Comeback Player of the Year award is something that we kind of just came up with. I understand that's not like a real PGA Tour award. Honestly, they really should do that. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. But anyway, I think our Comeback Player of the Year, you picked Zalatoris, didn't you?
I did.
Okay, and I picked Justin Thomas, right? I think those two are pretty much neck and neck. I think both of them now, if those were the two that were like the main, I'm not sure if anybody's kind of overtaken them in that race.
No,
I don't think anybody has. I think those two are kind of neck and neck for that award that we like to just give out verbally. Because look, both have done some good things, and then both have kind of done some things that are not as great. Which look, when you have a player like Will who has missed a lot of time and had a lot of question marks given his physical health, kind of understandable to understand that his game would be up and down a little bit. And then with Justin Thomas, who we both understand he doesn't have the physical, I don't want to say issues, but the
mechanical.
Well, no, because Zalatoris, like, he has an injury history. Justin Thomas doesn't have an injury history. That's what I was trying to get at. Okay. But he's changing his mechanics, right? He went away from his dad, who was his swing coach, and that's a big adjustment. That's also a very hard decision to make. And so he's made some adjustments to his swing. So each player is kind of fighting a little bit of a different battle. But I also think some part of it also comes down to confidence for each player. Because when you have a layoff, like Zalatoris did, it's kind of easy to lose confidence, right? Because how do you get confidence? Well, you get confidence by doing it over and over and over really well. And he wasn't able to do that because he physically couldn't do it. And then Justin, he's working with some new feels and he's working on his swing. And so he hasn't really done it in competition for that long in the grand scheme of things. So his confidence might not be as high as it had been in the past when he was very familiar with his mechanics and the results of the golf shot that it would produce. I want to give you a shout out, and I know I never do this.
You know, hold on. It is April Fool's Day as we record this.
No, I'm serious.
Joke, right?
No, I'm serious. The Underachieving Award, you have absolutely nailed it. I mean, it's unbelievable. The fact that Ted Scott has made more money than Rory McIlroy to this point in the season.
In like 4 weeks, too. Like, it's not even a full season.
It's insane. Like, you have absolutely nailed this pick. And I think I picked Lucas Glover. And I
could have saw that one coming from through the fucking sweatpants.
Well, dude, like, because the thing is, it's like, I remember when I made the selection of Lucas Glover to be like the quote-unquote underachiever. Yeah. I was just like, I kind of equated him to Cam Newton because it was like Cam Newton would have a good year and they'd have a bad year and they'd have a good year and they'd have a bad year. Lucas, it's like he has like a good stretch of like 2 or 3 months and then he just disappears for 5 years. And then all of a sudden, like he'll figure something out that will help him and he'll all of a sudden get really hot and he'll finish really well. And then like his next 2 or 3 years are just like nondescript. I mean,
he's played well this year.
No, he has. He definitely
he's worth.
He has for sure. But I mean, I gotta tell you what, man, you nailed that pick. And as far as the disappointment, the surprise, it's the amount of first-time winners.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, and look, part of that makes sense. I've discussed this with people in the world of golf because I've said I'm like. This is if you're a rookie or you're not exactly a hot commodity in the PGA Tour, this is really a perfect opportunity for you to win because a lot of the stars who would garner all that attention, who would win a lot of these events, like a Rahm, a Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bryson, whatever, they're gone, and so it opens this opportunity for these new guys to potentially come in and really win tournaments and compete at a high level. And that's been, I guess, logically, it's like, should you be surprised? Well, until you actually see it, right? And they've done it. And how frequently it has happened, though, that's what's surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that bleeds into my disappointments. The stars, not all of them, but in particular, Rory, JT, because I get it, he's working on some new things, but he's not coming off a serious back injury like Zalatoris is. Zalatoris, I kind of give him a little bit of a pass. Ricky, I mean, he hasn't really done a whole lot. And then Hovland, who has kind of had a nondescript first 3-4 months of the year. And Scheffler and Wyndham Clark, in my opinion, and I guess you could throw I guess you could maybe throw Xander Schauffele in, even though he hasn't won. And I understand Wyndham had the Mickey Mouse win, but he also finished second at the Players. The stars overall really have not performed. And that's what's been most disappointing. And I know we've talked about the ratings being down, and part of that has to do with the stars not really being as competitive as what they had been in the past. But yeah, that's a long-winded way. That's kind of my answer to that prompt.
So I do want to start off with your point on the stars being disappointing in terms of winners. So I was thinking about this a lot as of late. And while, yes, there were, of course, big-time names that won throughout 2023, particularly even in the beginning of the year, I want to actually take you back to 2022, well, 21-22. And again, this was official like Live Golf jumping off the ground. The winners from that early part of the year: Cameron Smith won the Century, Hideki won the Sony in a playoff against Russell Henley. The American Express was won by Hudson Swafford, who good player, not an elite player. Luke List, who won in the putt-off of the Century against Will Zalatoris at the Farmers, the two worst putters on the PGA Tour, going head-to-head. Then Tom Hoagie won at Pebble Beach. Scottie got the big win at the Phoenix Open. Joaquin Niemann earned his first big-time win at the Genesis. Sepp won at the Honda. Scheffler won at Bay Hill. Ryan Brehm won the Puerto Rico. Smith won the Players in that awful weather day. Burns, Scheffler, Ramey, Spawn. That led us in to April with the Masters. While, yes, there have been more of those first-time winners, Jäger, Pavon, Knapp, the list goes on, this isn't anything out of the ordinary for the PGA Tour to see lesser-known winners early on in the year, particularly when you look at the kind of events that you're playing, with the exception of John Rahm, who played in almost every single event almost every event in the January-February swing in 2023, until he of course left for Live. You don't always see the top names winning events. You see the Kurt Kitayamas of the world winning events in February and March. The big-time players, they'll play the Century, and they probably won't really show up until the Farmers. And then probably a little bit after that, they'll go play they'll play the Genesis. They might play AT&T. They might go to Pebble because no one really wants to play there anyways. Until this year, where was it a signature event? So, like, is it out of the ordinary? Not really. I think we're kind of making a big stuff about it because it's all of a sudden Live guys are gone and unknown players are winning. If anything, it makes it better. So I'm not even going to say it's like a surprise or a disappointment because the stars are going to win. They're going to eventually get there, and they're going to wind up winning these events now down the stretch. I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 4.5 weeks at the events that you're going to watch, you see a player in the top 25 win every single week. And it's not me saying that some of them are going to be signature events, because they are going to be. But there's going to be a situation where the better part of the calendar is now, and the best players are going to outshine the Doug Gims and the Kevin Kisners and the Kurt Kitayamas of the world. Eventually, Murphy's Law is going to average out. So that's where I stand on that, at least.
No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think I probably could have worded it a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the winning that's lacking. It's
the performance overall.
It's who's on the first page of the leaderboard.
Yeah,
that's what I should have said, because you're right. I mean, every year we have a lot of first-time winners or guys who have won before, but just haven't won a lot. And look, I mean, like I've said before, I have no problem with all these first-time winners. I have no problem with these leaderboards being full of relatively unknowns. I think it's great for us because it gives us a lot of things to talk about. I think for the average fan, though, who doesn't study the game like we do, it can kind of it becomes a less attractive option to watch on TV because that's kind of what I was getting at. I just didn't word it well enough. So I mean, you know what I mean. Like, trust me, I know we're on the same page as far as like it. In my mind, it's great to have all these players who are competing at a high level who had never really been heard of before because it gives us more stuff to talk about. I mean, because if we're being honest, like you can't really how many times if Scottie Scheffler wins 8 times in a year, hypothetically, like how many times can you talk about Scottie Scheffler and all the things he does well? You know,
exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like just beating the dead horse all over again.
Exactly. So I do think, and I do agree with your statement how the Stars, as this year continues to progress, the Stars will start winning more events, and I do believe that now that major season is rolled around, or is rolling around. I mean, if you think about it, right? The Masters is in the beginning of April. The PGA is pretty much the beginning of May. The U.S. Open's the second week of June. And then the Open Championship is in July, late July, I believe. So it's really 4 straight months. I believe it's late July. It's really 4 straight months of big tournaments. And not only do you have the 4 majors, but you have events like the Travelers, which is an elevated event. You have the Memorial, Jack's tournament up in Ohio. That's a big time event as well. I think that's an elevated event, I would assume. Yeah. So you have those other big events coming up, and then you end up going into kind of like that Midwest swing towards the end of the summer where it's like the John Deere, the 3M, the Rocket Mortgage, stuff like that. I do believe we will see, quote unquote, like the Stars, quote unquote, take back their throne to some degree. I'm not at all ruling out that we're not going to see more first time winners. We will. It's just how the game goes, and this is how new stars are born. So anyway, but yeah.
Yes. So, and then in terms of referring to everything else, to kind of discuss your points, like who surprised me, who disappointed me. I mean, it's evident, the Stars really have disappointed, and they have not shown the brevity and ability that we're so used to. Particularly like Victor Hovland. We haven't even heard anything from him for the most part all year. The only big time names that you've heard of, basically in any capacity this year, when you're not talking about LIVGolf, is Scottie Scheffler's being head and shoulders better than everybody else. Wyndham Clark finishing right on his tail every single week, and like Ludwig Oberg is kind of like the next big name that we can kind of talk more about. I mean, like
Scheffler, you have Scheffler, but you know
that's what I said. Like when you look at the scale. Schauffele, all right, but Schauffele can't close. So, like, when you look at the microcosm of golf, like it's fascinating when it's kind of the first time in a long time that we've had the storyline be Scottie and Wyndham. Joaquin Niemann is the second best player on earth, and he doesn't even play on the PGA Tour, and we're talking about him, which goes to show you how good he actually is in general, because he can probably beat most guys in PGA Tour fields at this point too. Okay. Ober's great. Haven't heard anything from Hovland. Haven't heard anything about John Rahm, with the exception of his Masters dinner and how that's going to go. Max Homa's been bleh. Sahith Theegala's been bleh. Sam Burns has had a couple of backdoor top 5s. Rory's done dick the whole year. I think Rory's first top 20 of the season came with the Players. He finished 19th. Like, he's supposed to be the god. And of course, like, we're going to talk more about Rory. He's playing this week. He's the odds-on leader at the Valero. We'll see what happens there, because God knows everyone wants to see Rory McIlroy waving around the green jacket. He would also look like such a priss in a jacket. Anyways, I digress. Like, you're not hearing a lot from the top flight of players. That's probably the next best PGA Tour player that we've seen a lot of. Tony Finau, Shane Lowry had a good week at the Players, but like Christian Bezadenhout, who's a top 30 player in the world, like.
Well, like let's be honest. Like when you think of like, I'm not trying to throw shade at like Shane Lowry or Christian Bezadenhout. When you think of stars on the PGA Tour,
yes,
they are not first on the list.
Yes, but what I'm saying is like the people we're talking about are not the stars.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Ricky hasn't played well. Max hasn't played well. Victor hasn't played well. No one has done anything of merit. Not even Jordan Spieth. And whether or not it's a matter of them not playing events, which it very well could be, they're only really playing 6-7 events. You've already played about 15 so far this year. They haven't done enough to prove to me that they are like odds-on guys that I can bet on for the majors. Like the only person, and it shows if you look at the Masters leaderboard, Scottie Scheffler is the favorite to win the Masters. Let me look at the number right now. He's plus 400 to win the Masters. We've never seen this. It's literally Scottie Scheffler at 4-1, and then Rory at 10-1, and God knows he's not going to win it. And then it's Jon Rahm at 12-1, and then it's Koepka, Hovland, Spieth, and Ludwig all at 20-1. We've never seen this before. And I don't know if it's a matter of Scottie Scheffler just being better than everyone else by a landslide, which I think he is when the putter's on, but he lost this week because of a couple of mistakes with the putter in particular. Like, kind of crazy to think that it's weird. It doesn't feel like the PGA Tour.
I'm going to make a comparison, and I don't really know. I think it's pretty accurate.
Let's see if it lands.
What?
Let's see if it lands. I'm curious.
Putting is like the 3-point shot.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and so sometimes, like teams that are very reliant on the 3-point shot, like think of when James Harden was on the Houston Rockets, right? Analytics, we're gonna chuck up threes, and then they shot like 27 straight threes in that game against Golden State and didn't make a single one. I mean, they broke like a record for how many 3-point shot attempts they had, and it can be so hit or miss, and that's kind of how putting is, because putting, although it's physically the easiest thing to do, it's actually very difficult because, especially when you get on faster greens, like at Augusta, you have to be so much more precise, not just with your green reading and your speed control, but also your contact as well. Because let me put it this way for you: and I'm just throwing knowledge out there just so you can understand. Hypothetically, if you hit the ball slightly off the toe on your putter, even if the face stays perfectly square, which is completely doable because I've done it before. My tendency when I putt is to hit it off the toe, but I've done it with a gate drill. So there's a T and a T. I can still hit it off the toe and still get it through that gate because my face is so square. But what happens is your speed is affected. And so you can hit a ball end over end still off the heel or off the toe because your face control is so good, but your speed control is off. And then that can result in putts coming up short, going below the hole, etc. There's so many different variables to putting that I think most people don't understand. And I'm just going to go on a limb here. I think Scottie missing that putt was probably the best thing that could happen to him for his odds to win the Masters. Like his own personal odds. I'm not talking about Vegas odds. Because he's going to be hitting so many of those 5-footers uphill left to right, you have no idea. I'm sure of it. I mean, he's that guy is going to leave no stone unturned. Regardless, though, I mean, look, I agree with everything you're saying. I really do.
I have a stat for you. With the exception of Jake Knapp and Scottie Scheffler, every single person to win on the PGA Tour this year has been top 50 in strokes gained putting for the year. That just goes to show you that putting is so crucial in today's game. And the PGA Tour has kind of become a putting contest to a degree. And we're going to talk more about it at the Masters. But, like, who's the one guy that I think every single year I've done this podcast, I have bet on to win the Masters? There's one guy. He could play piss poor through the entirety of the year. But there's one person that I always bet on to win at Augusta because he is the best putter on earth. Anybody? Bueller? Fry? It's Jordan Spieth.
Oh.
Jordan Spieth, I think, is like 55 below par at Augusta National putting. And yet he's only heard the golf course once in his career. Like, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
When it comes to playing at Augusta, I'm going to take the guys who put the ball the best. Anyways, I'm digressing on that because again, I am tangenting a ton. Yeah, that's kind of my look ahead as of right now on the tour. I think the stars will come back. It's not out of the ordinary to see smaller names win. The putting statistic has gotten so big on tour, and it's only going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you'll see it. The guys who are the top in tee to green, a lot of that's carried by their putting statistic and their approach play. It's like off the tee game doesn't really matter anymore. Like the idea of Bryson DeChambeau hitting the ball 470 yards, like cool, that's great and all, but guys are as effective driving it 280 and straight than hitting it 370 and off to the right every
100%.
time.
100%.
No. So the Valero Texas Open this week, there's one big question on everybody's mind as we go into the final event before Augusta National. And I'm going to really focus this question on Rory McIlroy because I think it's a compelling thought. Is the performance here relative to anything we see next week at Augusta?
Look, I think that momentum is a powerful thing. A lot of things that happen in life, when you get positive momentum, I do believe that it's much easier for good things to happen. You know, that being said, I would not read too much into this event going into next week.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is, look, I'm just looking at the betting odds right now for this event. Just to reference right now. Rory has the best odds to win. He also has one top 20 finish. Okay? There's a reason he's playing this event, right? There's a reason Max Homa at plus 1,800 is playing this event. Same with Jordan Spieth, Colin, Fleetwood, Billy Horschel, Adam Scott. There's a reason why. And I think most of these guys, they're either in the event, they're either in the Masters already, like a Rory or a Hideki or a Spieth, but they need reps because they really haven't played that well.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times you got to just play your way out of it, right? But then you also, on the flip side, you have guys who haven't won or who aren't in the top 50 of the official world golf rankings, even though, yes, I understand it's out of date. It's, you know, it's that ranking system's kind of out of touch, but that's how you get into the Masters, you know? And so in that case, it's like the NFL saying last week of the season, win and you're in. Well, this is kind of like, in a way, almost like last week of the season, right? Because you're trying to get into the Masters, win and you're in. So, and we've seen this happen before. I believe Corey Connors won this event to get into the Masters. Was it Corey? Someone won this. I think it was
2 years ago.
Yeah. So it's happened before, you know, but a lot of these guys, you know, and some of them are having good years and they're just like, you know what, like I'm playing pretty well and I just want to kind of keep the ball rolling. Like, that's fine. It's very, look, in short, I wouldn't really read too much into the events from this tournament going into the next one at Augusta. I wouldn't. I do believe in momentum. I do. I believe in confidence, you know, because winning and playing well breeds confidence. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why everyone's playing this event.
So it's a compelling idea, and I want to relate this week a lot to March Madness because it makes a lot of sense. Well, I got on the show, the main pod, and this was during like conference tournament week. This is like right when the bracket had come out on Selection Sunday, and it was the Monday after. And I'm sitting there with KB, and I go, you know, how should you approach building a bracket? Well, does conference tournament play have any relation to how you do in March? Turns out that it really doesn't. So, and I'm tangenting a little bit, but for those of you who don't watch college basketball, I'll explain a little deeper. NC State took out four of the top 25 teams in the country in order to get into the tournament, swept through the ACC and got in at 17 and 14. They're the worst record-based team amongst the Power Five to have made March Madness, and they're going to the Final Four to play Purdue. Purdue, on the other hand, ran through the Big Ten and were the odds-on favorite the entirety of the year to go deep. Houston won 2 games in overtime. They got bounced by Duke, who no one really saw coming because Houston was supposed to be a juggernaut team. Duke lost second round to NC State. There are examples of guys who can carry momentum and it brings them all the way to the final. That happens. Mm-hmm. You have like Illinois, who lost to a team far, far inferior to them. And everyone was like, oh, Illinois is going to lose easily in the first round of Morehead State. They crushed them. Everyone thought, oh, BYU is going to easily win their 6-11 matchup. They lost that one, even though they played really well in conference tournament play. Then it just carried out and trickles out. More often than not, conference tournament affects nothing when it comes to playing in March because you're playing different conferences, different teams you're not used to, paces of play are different, styles are different. It's a whole new ball game. Every golf course in the PGA Tour is different. And like you said, look, some guys play the tune-up back when the Houston Open used to be right before the Masters because the undulations and runoffs and everything were similar to Augusta. That's great. TPC San Antonio is nothing like Augusta National. Again, like you said, it's hard as a rock. I guess it's the same way to a degree. But there's plenty of rough. You're playing in an arid desert. It's supposed to be like 55 in Georgia next week. It's going to be like 90 degrees in San Antonio this week. There's going to be a lot of wind next week. There's not a lot of wind this week. There are similarities, but there are a lot of differences too. And Augusta National, it's one big fairway. You can miss anywhere. Granted, there are, of course, the pine straw and the trees. Very different to San Antonio, where it's cactuses and not a lot of trees. The differences in these golf courses are so apparent that, yeah, confidence is great and everything, but every single week is a one-off situation, in my opinion, when it comes to the PGA Tour. And it's only when you play, like, in the Florida swing and you play, like, Bay Hill, the Players, the Valspar. Those are all 3 incredibly challenging golf courses, even the Honda. You play all 4 of those courses. They're all incredibly challenging, but they have their own distinctive features. These 2 golf courses are not one and the same. And as everyone's saying, oh, Rory McIlroy is going to play this week. If Rory wins this week, he'll easily get a huge boost at the Masters. I don't think so. I think that Rory McIlroy is a very different player. And yes, cool. Momentum is great. But I guess it's a whole different beast.
I 1,000% agree. I mean, look, like, I think your analogy of comparing the NCAA tournament in college basketball to this is actually, it's pretty much spot on. And the reason I say that is because the last team I can remember that went into their conference tournament, and other than NC State this year, who went into the conference tournament with not a lot of momentum at all, and really made a splash in the NCAA tournament. Ironically, they won the NCAA tournament. UConn, when they had Kemba Walker, they had a really shitty end to the regular season. They won the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden, and then all of a sudden, it's like they just ran the table on everyone. And people don't understand. Yeah, it's fun. Like, that's like a Cinderella story. I remember one year after that, a couple years after that, Xavier, they lost like 6 events in a row in their regular season in conference play. And then I believe they won the conference tournament, and then they made it to like the Elite 8 as like an 11 seed or something. And like, yeah, those Cinderella stories, or those stories about how someone's struggling and then all of a sudden, like, they get some momentum and then they win it all, like, or get really close. Like, that's great and all. Like, that's cool, but it rarely happens that way. And there's a reason why that doesn't really happen. And it's because those players, whether it's golf or another sport, their skills aren't, I don't mean to, make a pun, but like they're not up to par at that time. They're not.
Yeah.
Rory's game isn't up to par right now. And to think that like this is the week he could put it together and then he's going to go and he's going to run the table at Augusta. No, he's not. He's not going to. The chances of that happening are so slim just because that's not how sports works.
Yeah.
And so much of being a great, and while he is a great, and while a lot of these guys are greats, it's because of consistency. Rory's been incredibly inconsistent this year. And I think it's completely unreasonable to think that all of a sudden, at the biggest event of the year so far, he's just going to turn it around.
And again, go ahead.
I don't see it happening. And I completely agree with what you're saying.
And again, I want to refer back to my point on the NCAA tournament. You want to talk about cadences and momentum carrying you? Clemson, one of the prime examples of this, lost their last 3 games going into March Madness. They lost their first round matchup in the conference tournament against Boston College, a 6-11. Duke lost to NC State in their first matchup. Duke and Clemson both lost their last 3 games going into the tournament. They each made the Sweet 16. I believe they actually both made the Elite 8. That right there goes to show you that even bad play could very well mean that you show out in any given week. The same thing happens on the PGA Tour. You can go from, I forgot who I was looking at. It might have been Will Zalatoris, who last year would go like T70, then finish T3, then go like T45, then win the event. Like it's a complete up and down, and it's a week-to-week thing. And guys who play well on certain golf courses tend to always play well on certain courses. I remember when I worked with Ryan Burr, who worked for ESPN and Golf Channel. He used to always say, it's all about the horses for courses. It's guys who play well on certain courses always play well there. Doesn't matter when it is. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is. It's how it always happens.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Like that's why Tiger won like 7 or 8 times at Torrey Pines.
Exactly.
That course built for him. It's anyway. But
with that said,
many picks.
With all that said, it's time for some beer money brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer. You might be asking yourself, who is Kenny? Well, I'll tell you. He is a smooth, clean, bright man with taste to boot. Sounds kind of like you and me. He's the routine choice of folks who want a balanced, flavorful, no-frills beer. That's right, for any occasion. I actually had it for at Easter. So good. Introduced the family to it. My mom's fiance was head over heels for Kenwood Beer. He goes, oh, I got to get on this. Where is it? I'm like, well, you can't get it in New York quite yet. Only 120 calories, 8 grams of carbs. Some call it the best light beer they've ever had. We just say you can't beat the original. Head to kenwoodbeer.com. Use the Kenny Tracker to find where you can get your hands on some ice cold, refreshing Kenwood beers. For my guy Daryl, listen up. You can get it at your favorite liquor stores in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or now even Maryland, as well as the Wells Fargo Center and beyond to watch the playoff-bound Philadelphia Flyers. Must be 21 years or older to do so, and of course, drink responsibly. And of course, for gambling, must be 21 years or older as well in a state that allows professional gambling. Don't be like Shohei Ohtani and betting in illegal gambling rings. Top 20 performance at the Valero Texas Open. Who you got?
This is a really big week for me because I'm down 4. I'm going to go Charlie Hoffman for a top 20 finish. I feel like this is the type of course where he could have that under the radar top 20. He has a very simple golf swing. His game is pretty much just point to point. He plays very much a placement style of golf, which on a course where, granted, the fairways are very wide, as Kevin just elegantly displayed. It's very easy to make a big number out here for sure. So I like my chances with Tommy. Jeez, I'm so tired. Charlie Hoffman finishing top 20.
I'm going to ride the visor. Give me Keith Mitchell for a top 20 this week. I've been looking into the numbers on guys who are on the back end of the Masters field or on the cusp. In the final 3 weeks of the PGA Tour season leading up to Augusta National, so those final 3 weeks, guys who are out of the field tend to perform at a 2.5 strokes gain better than guys who are already in the field. Granted, that's also varying on guys who are playing or not. But for guys who have played at least 6 rounds, so basically you make one event, miss the cut at a second one, and don't play the third, 2.5 strokes between the guys who are fighting to get in and the guys who are not. Keith Mitchell is in, but he's fighting his way to get deeper and deeper. I like the visor this week for a top 20 performance. Top 10.
Give me Eric Cole, the reigning rookie of the year, for a top 10 finish.
Top 10 for me. I don't know if I assume he's in the field. He should be in the field. I'm going to take Billy Horschel this week for a top 10 performance. Hits a lot of the metrics for me. I think he's like third amongst all the metrics when you look at it in terms of like what plays the best here. Also has some great course history here as well. Top 5.
Top 5. I'm going to go with my main man, Corey Connors, this week. He's a past champion here. Pretty high up there on the odds boards. I like Corey Connors this week, especially heading into Augusta.
Yeah, high on the odds board is where I'm going, top 5 and beyond. I love Hideki Matsuyama here for a top 5. It's a good get right spot for Hideki, who, aside from winning at the Genesis, has not done a whole lot of impressive stuff. His biggest assist isn't enough. He's made the cut plenty of times, but I do think he needs to get right and get tuned up before he tries to go and win his second green jacket. Your gimme.
This is tough, man. This is a tough one for me. I'm going to go with Rory McIlroy to finish outside the top 10.
God, he honestly might miss the cut, and I'll laugh. My gimme this week, I'm actually going to counteract your Connors top 5. I'm going to go Connors top 20. Safe pick, easy pick. Has won here in the past. I think it's just a simple play for someone who hits the ball straight, but the putter still has not been excellent. You need to putt well here in order to win. So I think a bit of a fall off is in the works. Your winner at the Valero. Any new guys punching tickets?
So here's the thing. My dilemma, this course can be so volatile off the tee. And like I said a couple minutes ago, the fairways are wide. But when you hit it out of play, it's treacherous, and you might as well go back to the tee box. And that's what gives me cause to pause with guys like Rory or Max Homa, who's struggled this year, Jordan Spieth, who can hit some of the worst drives imaginable.
It's so bad, isn't it?
I know you agree with me on that. Like
it's fugly.
We had, and he's like, Jordan. It's so funny. I was almost gonna pick Akshay, but I feel like he's just his overall accuracy, because of how far he hits it. That also gives me cause to pause, because when you hit it as far as he does, it's really easy to hit it offline. I've been bullish on this player for a little bit. A little bit this year, and I don't think he gets enough love. He's a major champion. I'm going to go with Matt Fitzpatrick, a guy who doesn't to win, a guy that doesn't really make a lot of mistakes, yet also has more than enough length to compete on any golf course. He's almost like a more, I don't know if physically gifted is the right phrase, but his game is similar to that of Charlie Hoffman, who's very much a placement style golfer. Mm-hmm. Fitzpatrick kind of takes that to another level, just because he's just more talented, and he has more speed, and he just has more physical gifts than a Charlie Hoffman. So I'm going to go with Matt Fitzpatrick to win.
I love that. I had 3 names on my big board. One who's like top of the odds board, one who's like in the middle, and one who's deep. I believe all 3 of them are going to be in the field next week. If I'm wrong, that's 2 of them. Yeah, okay, so all 3 are in the field. By the way, I want to give an early shout out before we even go to 2 of the amateurs who are playing next week in the Masters that I'll be keeping my eye on. So Stuart Hagstad, the 31-year-old or 34-year-old, just keeps on fucking making the field at Augusta. It's amazing to make $200K a year and just go play Augusta every year. Like, you're the coolest guy in the office. I don't know if you ever heard much about Christo Lamprecht.
No.
He's 6'7", and he's the #1 golfer in college. He plays at GT. He's South African. He has to like go watch his swing. It's very mechanically odd because they cannot make a driver long enough to fit his body based on like standards. But he'll be in the field. I'm very excited to watch him. But I'm actually going to pick someone who's going to be in the field for the first time at Augusta next week as well. Kind of like what you're saying about Fitzpatrick, but I think he has the potential to be the biggest European star in golf possibly ever. I'm riding high on Ludwig Åberg to win this week over who I thought I was going to take between Tommy Fleetwood and Tom Kim. Momentum, again, it's important. It has no true indicator of what's going to happen next week. I think Ludwig Åberg, though, you give him a really strong week at TBC San Antonio in his first ever event here. It's a brute of a golf course. If you can succeed here, I think you can succeed well with similar hard, rocky conditions on the greens at Augusta. So I think Ludwig is going to have a great shot. Ball striking galore. Putter's been strong. Everything is kind of following up. He hasn't played in 2 weeks. Give me Ludwig to go deep. Get the biggest win of his career before he goes to Augusta and tries to become one of the first time players at Augusta to win a green jacket. It'll be sick. Ben, before we go, I want to let you know that the Mets lost 5-0.
Are you kidding me?
Gave up 5 in the 10th.
Oh my god!
I've been sitting on that for about 10 minutes.
Oh my god, dude!
Who gave up the runs? That's the question. Are
you kidding me?
Tonkin, Michael Tonkin. My friend texted me, do you know Owen? I go, who's Owen?
0-4.
0-4.
Dude.
It's embarrassing, man.
Lindor. Yo, these guys are fucking playing like shit. Hey, my Starling Marte comeback player of the year pick is looking pretty hot right now.
Yeah, it's better than your JT comeback player of the year pick. Although, actually, I was looking at the numbers. I think JT and Zalatoris, I think JT has the edge. He has one better. Like, they're basically even. They both have 3 top 10s, or like, I think JT has like 4 top 20s. They both have 2 missed cuts, whatever it is. But, yeah.
What drives me nuts the most about this team, they wasted basically a perfect start.
Mets just suck. Well, let's just keep it at that. But before we dive off the deep end and talk more about the Mets, I'm just going to let us outro here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Get in the Hole here with Steve and Ben. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, Twitter, Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, TikTok as well. Follow us on YouTube, like, subscribe. If you like the content that we do here, you'll love the content everywhere else on Underground Sports Philadelphia at YouTube, as well as us on social media at Get in the Hole Pod. Like, leave a review, enjoy us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and of course, be sure to engage with us. Follow me and Ben, me at real Steve McAvoy, despite there is not being a fake Steve McAvoy, and Ben at Pirro_Ben. Thank you guys for another great episode. This has been episode 148 of the Get in the Hole podcast. We'll see you guys next week for the Masters. Good luck at the Valero, Ludwig, and hopefully. Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time, and remember, get in the hole!